You wear your denim with jeans. Okay, thank you all very much. I'm also a vocalist, so I am very impressed by musicians as well. And so thank you for enduring with me as I fondle here. The Wayne County Fair, Larry Edge, and then Mike will come back and give us another tune, and then Rachel Smith, Sharon Bertner, and Eddie Dow. Okay, so yes, sir. Please, Larry Edge.
My name is Larry Edge. I'm from the Catskill Mountains of New York, a former manure shoveling cow slapper. And this is called the Wayne County Fair. Late August was just late August. If you were an adult, anyway. But to a school kid, late August had always been those sad last few days of the good life, just before the darkness came back. We knew it was coming back when the posters went up. We knew then that the time was short. Each year, the posters were the harbinger of summer's fleeting final gasp, in the form of a last local shindig on the other side of the river. In 1966, they proclaimed the 104th edition of the Wayne County Fair in Holmesdale, Pennsylvania, a fair that could hardly have been more representative of Norman Rockwell's America. It was the late summer gathering of the country folk living in northeast PA, as well as we who lived across the Delaware River in rural New York. Every year, the county would contract a small traveling carnival to supplement the venues of local color with rides and sideshow acts. In those days, you might see a few military guys in uniform holding hands with the girls, home on leave most likely. Not like today when the Marines could be called on to set up a video display next to the latest generation of armored personnel carrier. And the Army Reserve might be convinced to drop a few soldiers from helicopters, sailing in on steerable parachutes with the stars and stripes trailing in the lofty breeze. In 1966, parachutists had to practice their version of stop, drop, and roll to avoid broken bones when they slammed into Mother Earth. Not a good idea for the fair. A broken leg and a flag lying in a heap would not have done Old Glory proud. So, back then, 4-H clubbers and their well-fed, groomed, and doted-on farm animals had center stage. Healthy calves and prize chickens garnered the attention of everyone passing through the front gate. There was an above-ground pool set up with rainbow trout swimming in the artificial current, and for 50 cents you would be given a cane pole to try your hand at getting one of them to bite on a salmon egg with a hook in it. I learned that one has about the chance of a snowball in hell when trying to catch a fish that's smarter than oneself to even look at a salmon egg. A 50-cent education. Not bad. Eventually, my high school friend and I turned our attention to the row of white carny venues beyond the livestock tent. Time to go out back to check out what form of Americana these had to offer. As I suspected, Barker stood on platforms just like in the movies and delivered overwritten come-ons describing the wonders within. Within these hallowed tent walls, you will see the world's most corpulent woman seated beside the tallest man on earth, as thin as Jack's beanpole and as wiry as the boa constrictor girder wrapping about his body. We kept going and opted for the freak show tent. We entered with a group and sat on bleachers facing a small stage. On the stage was a little deformed man. He was literally 2 feet tall, just a torso with only stubs for arms and legs. His head and handsome face was full size and seemed fully out of place. The Barker introduced him. Mr. William is the great-grandson of slaves, born in the Deep South, and, as you can plainly see, handicapped. He makes his living by performing with the great traveling carnivals each season as they wend their ways from south to north and across this great land of ours. Mr. William was mute and needed the introduction. Then Mr. William produced a piece of rolling paper and a pouch of tobacco, rolled himself a cigarette, and somehow lit it. Everyone clapped. We bought a small Bible for Mr. William, which he signed holding the pen in his teeth, a little sideshow sideline he used to supplement his income. I was the last one out as the group was leaving, and I saw the Barker place him in a galvanized wash tub and slide it under the bleachers. The next tent was the Burlesque Review. Being a pair of teenage boys, we were drawn to it like June bugs to an overhead porch light, but with smaller brains. We were too young to enter the front way, so we slipped under the tarp in the back. A bald bouncer with the physique of Mr. Clean saw us sneak in, but he just smiled and turned his head. There were to be 2 performers, and as we waited, I imagined that they would be coming out not wearing too much more than bikini bottoms and pasties with dangly things, then dancing around to some appropriate music. Not so. They walked out stark naked and didn't dance at all, but entered into some performance art with Coke bottles that is neither proper for young boys to see, nor appropriate for old men to describe in detail. When it was over, still numb, we joined the group of middle-aged men and walked out. There was a Cadillac convertible idling outside, and one of the performers, now clothed, climbed in and rode off with a middle-aged man behind the wheel. We strolled back and mingled again with the normal folk, feeling like the world had changed a little bit, as though we had just discovered that, like an unkempt calf, our world had a manure-caked underbelly. The Wayne County family-friendly fair was ending for the day. Corn-fed country kids had packed up their prize-winning goats and rabbits and headed home. The sun was beginning to go down behind the green rolling foothills of the Pocono Mountains, and we decided to make our way to the exit. As we were passing the now empty livestock tent, we ran into a girl who had broken up with me at one of my former schools. She'd been too young to go out with boys at the time anyway. She smiled sweetly and said, "Hello," obviously in full knowledge of how cute she had become. Things have changed since 1966. We live in a kinder, gentler time. Circus elephants are no longer prodded to make fools of themselves, but have been retired and are currently lounging in green pastures. I'm sure laws have been placed on the books that put an end to the old carny staples, like the exploitation of the severely handicapped for personal gain, or trafficking in prostitutes. Geeks today sit in front of computers all day and night and avoid getting too much sun. In Norman Rockwell's good old days, which we all seem to long for, geeks worked at small county fairs and bit the heads off live chickens. It's true. Go look it up in the dictionary.